This is the Initiates Podcast. I am your host and guide, Natalie Grace. Join me for an enlightening exploration of spirituality, mysticism, and awakening. It's my honor to journey with you. Hello, my beautiful friends. Thank you for joining me again. It's so nice to be sharing space with you. I have so much to share with you this week. I've had the most amazing weekend. I attended a festival, a camping festival called the Bohemian Summer Festival. It was a 3-day festival for women just outside of Melbourne in Australia. And I haven't done anything like that in a really long time. I haven't gone to a camping festival since I was in probably my early 20s. I haven't camped out in my van for like a few years, since before COVID. I hadn't gone to a festival by myself in a really long time. And it was my very first time presenting. I was there to deliver some workshops on flower remedies and also tarot. And I was so grateful for the opportunity. I met some beautiful, beautiful women there. Such vibrant and unique and sovereign beings. Just surrounded by them for a full 3 days. It was awesome. And so not only was it a fantastic opportunity for me to market myself, and to be honest, I did quite a bit of that. I went a bit wild with my flyer posting. So if you happen to see one of my flyers in the toilets at the festival and that's what's brought you here, welcome. I'm so glad you found me. So it was a great opportunity for marketing and promoting myself and my offerings, my services. But even more important than that, it was such good medicine for me to be in the energy, the energetic presence, in the sphere of community, in this amazing safe container that was created by the organizers who did a fantastic job. And to be in a part of the community of women. I will talk about this in more detail later on in the episode, exploring this energy of sisterhood and also the sacred space of sisterhood, both energetically and physically. It's something that I know has been lacking from my experience in recent times, that my heart and my soul is yearning to have again in my life. And the awareness of this yearning created a really interesting experience for me. I would describe it as a gentle miracle that occurred that really soothed my heart, I guess, and fulfilled a really deep desire that I had and I witnessed myself having at a particular moment over the weekend. So it's a bit of a vulnerable share, but I am excited to share it with you because not only might it speak to you and your own yearning for connection with sisters right now as you are on your own journey, but also because it's just another example and experience that is both mirroring to me what it is to manifest what we desire, but also a teacher in the actual process of co-creating what we desire. So there's some big themes on this episode. I will be talking about manifestation. I will be talking about sisterhood. I will be talking about women's spaces. And I will be talking about healing as well. And if you are a man listening to this, I know I have a fairly decent cohort of male listeners. This is an episode I think you should listen to because I think it's really important that men are open to hearing about the importance, the deep need that women have to connect And it's primal. This is something that I experienced, I witnessed in myself in this little mini miracle over the weekend, that it's instinctual, it's primal, this need to connect, this yearning to connect, and especially share stories, share experience, share wisdom. By understanding this need, you're going to understand women better. You're going to understand us on a deeper level, and this can help inform how you relate and see the sisters in your life, the mothers, the daughters, the friends, and of course, the beautiful wives or girlfriends or partners in your own lives. So I encourage you to stick around and listen with an open mind and an open heart, all you guys, especially if you've been completely confused by all this Taylor Swift hysteria and you've been like, I don't get it. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. Receive this incredible wisdom that I am so privileged to be able to share and transmit to you on behalf of all the women I connected with on the weekend. And now let's journey. I've had such a cool weekend and such an incredible past few weeks. I mentioned this briefly in the previous episode, but I've recently gone through a pretty huge portal of transformation, a complete shifting of space, a recreation of what my home looks like, and a real focus on creating into reality what I've envisioned and felt in my heart that I've needed for a really long time now. A space that is harmonious, that is deeply calming and safe and bright and light and new. It's been an incredible experience living on the farm, in the farmhouse, an absolute privilege and a huge challenge, such a different lifestyle and way of being compared with how I was living previously in the city and have lived my whole life being a city girl. And I love it. I'm so grateful that I still have the opportunity to call the farm home, but the home space itself was very difficult and challenging. I'm sure a lot of people that live in an old house, specifically an old farmhouse, can relate to this. And while it's not an old farmhouse that was built in like the 1800s, it's still old and has problems and was causing me so much disharmony, discord, instability in lots of different ways, just by being surrounded by stuff that was shabby, broken, spaces that weren't quite right, not a perfect fit for what I actually need to do, not having a space private and quiet enough to record, making it hard for me to record as frequently as I wanted for this podcast, for instance, or live stream. So I have been working quite diligently for a good, I want to say now about 6 months or so, bringing to life what I've envisioned. And I don't even say that in like some clairvoyant way. It's more my own visioning process, a lot of feeling and a lot of that claircognizance, the knowing. And I really do credit my future self for helping here. It's something that I've learned along this journey, the really important co-creation and interaction between future Natalie and past Natalie, creating what I get to live in the present, which is just amazing. And past Natalie has known that future Natalie needed something very specific around space and home. And like I said, it was around August or September last year where I decided, I just had this knowing, now's the time. Work hard, save money. And I did that without thinking about what I needed it for, because I was quite happy living in the present and just like living my subsistence kind of lifestyle, nothing too flashy, but feeling quite abundant with all the space that surrounded me and the beautiful interactions with the animals and the plants and the birds and all those beautiful things. I never felt really lacking, but I also knew that I was fairly limited with the resources I had available to build something bigger and better for myself. So I really got to work being creative and hustling in a way that I haven't had to do or have chosen not to do in a little while, like a few years, I would say. I leaned back into a past version of self that was really good at that. So past Natalie helped me to build up a stash of cash, basically, that would give me options that I knew I would need very soon. But I didn't know what they were, and I didn't know how they'd arrive. But I knew that I wanted my environment to transform. And I wasn't planning on like this being all about like my manifestation lessons, but it's going to lead into the main message of this episode, which is all about sisterhood. Maybe perhaps that's because that's what my future self is going to be working on manifesting into my reality next. But I did mention my home space last week, so I do want to provide a bit more of a story around that. And the manifestation lessons have been such a huge part of that. So anyway, I called on my past self to fortify me with the skills and talents and inspiration that I needed in order to earn that money. And I called in my future self, who I knew was holding the literal space that I was going to be moving to very soon. And over the new year, it all happened very quickly, but I was able to find, I want to call it my dream space, a space that was exactly what I needed for work and creativity. Brand new. No one had lived in it. Luxurious, really speaking to my Libra sun, just gorgeous to look at and full of light, full of space, full of beautiful new appliances that no one else has used. It really felt like the universe had created, or I had created, exactly what I wanted and needed, but extra. I wasn't expecting that I would be able to find something this great for me in exactly the place I wanted to be. Anyway, I wanted to share that because it's exciting for me. I have an amazing, basically, podcast studio and live streaming studio that I'm going to be working from. And I have a space where I can be doing readings from in real life, which is super exciting. That's going to be something I gently journey to. But yeah, it's cool. So this journey of manifesting this shift has been really cool. And I really do want to pay gratitude to my past and future self for helping co-create this present reality that I'm enjoying and loving and living for right now. So with your own manifestations, if you haven't considered inviting your past and future self to help you in the present, acknowledging them, thanking them, asking them for help, do that. It's a really powerful practice. Or just be aware of their roles in what's happening for you right now. We're so quick to ask our guides and our ancestors and our spirit allies for help and assistance. And that's a beautiful thing to do. I have no doubt I've been working so closely with all of those spirits in my own life and my own spiritual practice. I have no doubt they've been here really helping to make things arrive in the physical reality for me. I've talked recently about the shamanic work I'm doing and the connecting in with the mountain energy, animal allies, the elemental forces. And when we work with them, things can arrive and shift in our physical reality very quickly. So I definitely pay my reverence and gratitude to all of my etheric and spirit helpers for their assistance, because I know it's there and real, and I feel very supported going through this change. But also, it's rare, I think, that people talk about calling in our past and future versions of self. And I really, really learned how important they are in the process of manifestation. That reflection as you're going on the journey about the magic of that work that your past self has done to get you where you are and where you're headed, and the amazing space holding that your future self does, just like anchoring into that point where you want to be, and then setting up these little opportunities and invitations on your timeline for you to like see and say, whoa, I can do something here. I'm going to say yes to this. I might feel afraid. I might feel scared, but let's do it. Let's do this. It's really powerful work. So I hope that helps you with your own manifestation journey. And I'm sure my understanding of these powers is going to evolve as I go, because things are only just starting to transition for me. And it began with this house. Now that I know that I have a space that's perfect for me, that's everything that I want and need it to be in order to continue on my path in aligning with my sacred work, my soul mission, my most divine purpose here. It's really exciting, and I know that the space is like the foundation, the integral part of that. And while I have the opportunity, those who follow me do know my connection with the animals, and I just want to make it very clear, I haven't abandoned them in any way. I've just evolved my role in taking care of them. And thankfully, I'm not the only one who looks after the animals on the farm. So they're very well taken care of. I just wanted to put your minds at ease about that. Flower remedies are a form of energetic medicine that carries the high vibration of flowers within the structure of solar-activated spring water. Flower remedies were pioneered by British physician, homeopathic doctor, and intuitive channeler Dr. Edward Batch in the early 20th century. Led by his intuition and connection with higher guidance, Dr. Batch created the Batch Flower Remedies, a complete system of 38 flower remedies that heal the source of dis-ease and disorder in the mind, body, and spirit. Batch Flower Remedies work by raising the vibration of the subtle energy body to harmonize low vibrational states and restore balance on all levels. They're completely safe to use and provide gentle, energetic support for healing from physical ailments, negative mental states, and emotional imbalance. Flower remedies are also fantastic for elevating spiritual development, and I use them every day in my work. If you'd like to learn more about flower remedies or try them for yourself, head over to flowerguide.com.au or follow the link in the show notes to shop the full range of Batch Flower remedies, as well as my very special Flower Guide signature blends to support all manner of health and wellness needs. While you're there, don't forget to use the promo code INITIATE to get 10% off your order. So, Sisterhood. This is where this path is leading me next. I went to a fantastic event on the weekend. It was amazing. And if you're in Melbourne, you might be thinking it was a Taylor Swift concert. And it wasn't. I went to the Bohemian Summer Festival. It was the first festival run by two incredible sisters. And it was fairly small. It was, I think, around 800 or so people there. Women was just women, and women of all ages, women of all backgrounds. The most beautiful, authentic women. And it was such an incredible space that was created. It was amongst the trees, not too far from Melbourne. The energy of the place was just beautiful. It was a really well kept campground, and the festival site itself was amazing. And so I was presenting at the festival. So this was an incredible portal of transformation and evolution for me, going through those festival gates, because it was the first time that I was presenting in person two of my incredible passion projects. The first presentation I did was a women's circle talking about flower remedies and teaching people about flower remedies, how they work, how to use them, and even how to make them, and promoting my flower remedy brand, Flower Guide. And that was amazing. And so the second one was about tarot, and that was a bit of a bigger workshop talking about tarot as a tool for self-transformation. And it was really interesting. I didn't actually know how to prepare. I came to the decision to just allow words to flow rather than prepare a presentation. So that was an interesting process, and it was really fun. And even though it was daunting, it was a great experience. So as I entered the gates, the festival gates, I was going through my own transformation process. Evolving to the future Natalie, who's a presenter, who works IRL with real women in real time in physical space, not just over the internet. And it was a beautiful opportunity to connect, to be present with women on the path. So what was really profound about this experience was the safety of the women's space. And we feel this in short bursts when we attend women's circles, and perhaps even in our own kind of like friendship groups. This is something that's a bit foreign to me though, because I'm a bit of a lone ranger. I've had really solid like female friendship groups in the past, but not for quite a while now, given that I moved away from so many of my my women's network. And it was hard to reestablish those connections arriving just before COVID and lockdowns. So it was a really refreshing environment to be in. I entered the festival gates and I felt the most profound sense of calm. I felt completely welcome, at ease, and the excitement came a little bit later, but it was immediately like, I felt this immediately and it was quite shocking. So I didn't feel shocked in a bad way, but I was quite surprised at just how different it felt to be in this space, this specific women's space that was going to be there to cradle us for 3 nights, And that continued, that feeling of safety, that feeling of harmony, that feeling of acceptance was present the whole festival. And that was really important because a lot of things came up for me personally that I got to work through around sisterhood and friendship. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one attending that felt this way. I saw so much feedback during and after the festival that many, many women felt the same way and really valued this time together and also this dedicated space of safety and acceptance for the women attending. It was just such a beautiful cradle, and there were so many different presentations about all sorts of things. I sat in women's circles, in sound healings. I learned about energetic protection, and I watched some incredible performances by musicians. I sat in a circle of women, about an intimate circle of women talking about menopause. It was just beautiful, the coming together of so many different women, different stories. And this has been quite profound, the storytelling aspect. This is something that I've taken away from this festival and also this time, because this past week where I live, it's felt like this feminine power portal, I want to say. And so much of that has to do with Taylor Swift, interestingly enough. Now, I'm not a Swiftie by any means. I'll put a disclaimer out there that I'm kind of energetically suspicious of all female pop stars in the kind of international pop music system. I really do believe that in order to get any level of fame, there's a bit of dark dealing that happens at that level. And so I don't think anyone in that arena is 100% pure in their energy. However, what's really interesting about this past week is the coming together of women. So in my little microsphere that happened at this festival, but in a much broader scale over the past week, women and girls have been coming together to celebrate in joy and harmony around Taylor Swift. And it's been a fascinating thing to witness. I did a lot of driving back and forth. I didn't camp all nights at the festival. And so driving back and forth from the festival, I would just play the radio and I'd play the pop stations just to keep things light and interesting. I spent so much time listening to podcasts and ceremonial music that sometimes I just want to break the pattern with something completely different. And I grew up as someone who was too cool for everything. Like I liked the most avant-garde, different, abrasive often music. And so it's actually quite refreshing now for me to sit and enjoy pop music. It feels different and interesting. And I've had quite a long break from music as well. So I've been enjoying playing the pop music stations and just hearing what other people are hearing at the moment. And what was fascinating was that for the whole weekend, at least 3 stations were just playing Taylor Swift constantly. And it kind of gave me an insight into the adoration and idolization, which goes back to that sort of potential dark energy. However, what came through in everything I witnessed around the Taylor Swift concert that was happening in Melbourne was the purity in the adoration of these women and girls, and the purity in the celebration of them all coming together to sing her stories. And that's where the parallel with this Women Festival lies. So much of what we did at the festival was about sharing stories and storytelling. And it's such an important art for women to share stories. It's what we have always done. Sit in circle and share story. It's something that we don't do together anymore. We've kind of outsourced that, and we like to receive other people's stories, perhaps not so much sharing our own anymore, or sharing together, co-creating in unison to create myth and legend and stories that we can tell again and again. And so it's quite novel to have this pop star with these songs, these stories, and she's known as a storyteller, arriving in our city, in this place, and having all these women just so eager, and girls so eager, purely inspired and excited and joyous in anticipation to sing every word of these stories and to sing together and to come together. It was just such a fascinating thing to witness. And I couldn't help but kind of play a little part in that as I was driving along, listening to these songs played over and over again. I definitely accept that nefarious aspect of the industry and her role in it. But at the same time, the purity of the love and sisterhood that existed in the fans was something so unique. It was something to behold. Even my mum, who's not into this stuff at all, commented on the phone to me today about how beautiful it was to see all these girls coming together, getting dressed up and just look so happy and so joyous and celebrating together. And so it was apparent to people who even weren't listening to the radio all day or aren't obsessed with Taylor Swift. And it made me reflect again on the power of these women's spaces. And I know men weren't excluded by any means from the Taylor Swift concert. Everyone would have been welcome, but she's just so beloved to girls, and it was definitely a women's space. And it was a space for sharing story, for singing the vibration, the words of these stories together. And I mentioned the like potentially nefarious aspect. I definitely think that would have been completely overridden, if it exists at all, by the purity of intention of these girls. It was just cool. I've really enjoyed it. And I've just found it such an interesting parallel that concert that happened for exactly the same days as this festival, they were occurring both at the same time and had a very similar effect, I felt, on creating a space where women felt completely welcome and calm and free to express. That's definitely something that came through in my own work at the Women's Festival over the weekend. The message that kept coming through loud and clear to me from my higher self guiding me, and my past self especially, and my future self trying to anchor this new frequency for me, is to express fully without fear. And that's what was so lovely about these girls. They're definitely guided by aesthetics and the different eras, you know, but they're finding a way to express themselves in a way that feels free to them. And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So there was an interesting moment. There were so many interesting moments at the festival for me, going back to my weekend, in addition to presenting, which was amazing. Just being an attendee, a participant of the collective in that space. I mentioned some incredible music. One of the most amazing moments for me was watching this beautiful duo, musical duo called Morrigan and Wilding. And they were a folk duo playing all sorts of beautiful folk instruments, harps and fiddles and flutes, in addition to guitar, and beautiful, beautiful storytelling, beautiful harmonies with the vocals. It was just lovely, really creative use of loops as well for this amazing like production in real time. It was great. And they played some really fun songs. It was quite theatrical and beautiful. And one of the moments that stood out to me, which I received really profoundly, was a song about an Irish goddess. Her name is Canacluma. I hadn't heard of her before, but she's the goddess of the harp. And actually, like in Irish myth, she invented the harp out of the kind of sinewy insides of a whale. And she's also, I believe, the Irish goddess of music and dreams and inspiration, and also poetry, I believe. So there's a beautiful richness there that I just love. What an amazing creative goddess. And so they, in this song about her, they sang her story, and it was really lovely and touching, her story. And even though she's a goddess, it was something that I could relate to, the need to retreat into the cave of the inside of the whale in order to kind of rediscover herself. And through that, she discovered this incredible instrument that would sing, you know, her story through the plucking of these strings, and the amazing interaction of the wind, of the air element with these earthen strings. And the line that stood out for me after singing her story, at the very end, they sang, "Canacluma has had enough of being underestimated, but just you wait, she'll be a goddess one day." And that was so touching to me, because I was like, every goddess was just a woman at one point. How many women that I'm interacting with this weekend could arrive in their future self as a goddess, revered and worshipped by future generations? Every goddess was just a woman at some point, and it's such a beautiful thing to think about. And it also, again, had this strange parallel with Taylor Swift, who I think we'd all kind of agree is this this modern day goddess. She is worshipped and revered by so many. I don't think it's the same as these mythical goddesses. They are, their stories and characteristics are established over such a long period that, you know, the goddess that someone like Taylor Swift will become in the future will be written in the future. But to witness it in the present when it's actually, when this potential future goddess is alive is amazing and fascinating. But even more fascinating is, who are the goddesses among us? And we all have the potential to become a goddess one day. Isn't that amazing? You know, it's really incredible. And it really like shook me. Because it's something that's so obvious that I had never thought about before. And again, this is the power of the storytelling, you know, this is like multi-layered, multi-dimensional storytelling, the telling of stories about the goddess story, you know. And so I really pondered the message in that song and the story of this goddess and the reminder that she will become a goddess one day. And often when we work with goddess energy, we invite goddess energy to be present in our magical work, in our rituals, in our spiritual evolution. We are inviting in and wanting to work with and focusing on the goddess characteristics, which is the pinnacle of the power, all those different layers of power and focuses of power, those powerful characteristics of the goddess. But what was so amazing and interesting and exciting was to focus on the characteristics of the goddess before she was a goddess, that led her to become the goddess, that facilitated her stepping into the power of the goddess. What were those decisions that her past self made? Her earlier self. What portals did she push herself through that led her to the path of becoming the goddess? And in Kana Kluma's case, that push to change, that choice to leave the husband, leave the man and venture into the cavernous insides of the whale, like a womb space. That's a hermit path of knowing thyself. And we all do it in our own journeys of shadow work. But isn't it amazing to think about what changes we might be making in our lives that eventually could propel us into such power that we could be a goddess one day? I just love thinking about it. And the fact that I'm like 41 years old and have never thought about this before, it's pretty amazing. I think it's pretty easy to see someone like Taylor Swift and figure out that in like 500 or 1,000 years time, I can totally understand why people might worship her as some kind of supernatural idol. If they were to, you know, dig up all of the artifacts all around the world, the bracelets, the t-shirts, the costumes, whatever it might be, obviously the music. But to think about the goddesses that weren't incredibly famous while they were alive, that they just did something incredibly courageous and meaningful and aligned and futuristic, you know, and that the impact of those moves imprinted their story on the collective consciousness in a way that it develops into myth and creates a goddess energy. It's just amazing to think about. I think also the female musicians, especially in a collective, in a duo or in a group, the circles of chanting and singing that were happening, it is so powerful. Women have forever sung their stories, and that's what, so I guess a lot of probably women deep within feel connected to with Taylor Swift as well. But any female musicians that are actually telling stories, because it's familiar. It's how and there's a longing to come together again, to share these stories through voice in that way. It's very powerful, and it is how myths continue, how they go on, how this wisdom gets to continue generation after generation, through song, through poetry, through art. It's very beautiful. Another really beautiful thing that struck me and was just so visibly apparent was how free the women felt just to be themselves. For some women, that meant dressing up as a fairy, like expressing their kind of like inner spirit in an outwardly way that you can't normally do in real life. But for so many others, it was just like not dressing up, wearing what was comfortable, not bothering with makeup or doing their hair. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a much more of the dressing up and looking beautiful and like leading into that like Venusian goddess. But in actual fact, the beauty of the authenticity of just being without the extra adornment was so lovely. It was so beautiful and so nourishing to me. I went through the process of trying to figure out what I'm supposed to wear. I'm presenting. There'll be people looking at me. I want to look beautiful. I have to look put together. And what does that mean? Does that mean heels or nice shoes? Does that mean a dress? And I kind of agonized over what I was going to wear all week. And I put some effort in, and you know, I love to make it on theme as well, right? So I had planned a nice floral skirt for the flower remedy talk, but it didn't feel special because it was what I always wear. You know, it was just kind of considered to match what I was delivering. And actually it was perfect because that's what I was comfortable in. And I accepted that I didn't look like everyone else. I wasn't wearing the bohemian hippie pants or the floaty dresses. However, I was still being me, and it was totally okay. And so by the second presentation, all pressure was lifted, and I still put in some effort to look nice because that made me feel good. It was new for me. I really never wear makeup at all anymore. So it was an opportunity to, you know, do my hair and like makeup, because I just don't care about that kind of thing much at all in my day-to-day life anymore. And I am a Libra, so I do like that aspect sometimes, in the right time and place. But by the second presentation, I was not as dolled up as the first day. I wasn't concerned about my clothes or my shoes like I was. And by the third day, I was like doing workshops in my pajamas. I'd slept over for that last night, and all pressure was lifted. I felt completely accepted in my own skin, in my regular clothes, even in my pajamas. There was just no judgment. It was a judgment-free zone. It was so refreshing and so beautiful and so different from normal life. But it got me thinking, is it really even that different? If I go out, are people looking at me, or is that just what I'm expecting them to do, or thinking that is happening and it's not really happening at all, you know? I think women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and it's a hard balance, because on the one hand, it is so beautiful to receive a woman in her full beauty, even, you know, a full face of makeup and her hair done and wearing a really incredibly beautiful and even sexy dress, you know. There's something really special and goddess-like about that. But then that earth goddess energy is just as striking, you know. It's it's just as impressive. It's very interesting. I heard someone else not that long ago talk about the concept of glamour, and that in kind of mystical or esoteric language, glamour is a spell. It's a spell that someone casts through their appearance, and how often that's what glamour is, and we don't realize that that's what that is. That's why the dressing up and the doling up occurs. That's why there's so much injecting and youth obsession. It's part of this glamour spell, this hypnosis almost, this programming, this subliminal programming. And it's sad because there's so much incredible goddess divinity that comes through the woman presenting in all of her beauty, in her sparkle, you know. And then you've got also that earth goddess, that real spirit of Pachamama, you know, the woman who understands her power and lets, even just for a few days, lets the rest of it, that glamour aspect, fall away, to just be her in her purity amongst her sisters and be accepted and loved and revered without needing that glamour aspect. It was such a beautiful contrast to receive both that like divine, beautiful goddess energy of the adornment versus the earth purity, and both were there and present, and it was great and I loved it. But there was something about the safety of that space, of just being women there who were in the frequency of love and acceptance and not judgment, that allowed the rest of the women there as a collective to feel free. It was amazing. And now that you've gotten that background into the festival, it takes me to another example of an incredibly powerful manifestation. I would call this a miracle, actually. A magical miracle that happened to me while at the festival. And it's so small, but it was so powerful. And I immediately knew when it happened, or just after it happened, that it was a miracle in the present that I was experiencing. And I was so grateful and so in awe of how energy works and how the universe works, and people, the deep connection, energetic connection between people. And I kind of feel like I want to read the entry of my journal. I love reciting. I know I've done it on the podcast before with channeling, but it's a bit more of a vulnerable share, to share what comes from my personal journal writings. And this is a deeply personal share, but I think it's very powerful. And I feel like I wrote it down to share with you guys. So please receive it gently for me as I tell this story for you. I titled this entry, Magic Happens. I am at a women's festival. I knowingly came to this festival alone, not knowing a soul. I feel free to be me, but I'm also aware that I'm a bit different to most women here. It is being mirrored to me that I've been on the solitary path, the path of the hermit, the hanged man, the magician, the high priestess, the chariot. I've been fine alone, but when I see these beautiful, soulful, loving women walking together, arm in arm, I realize how much I'm longing for female connection on a deep level, and even just a joyously superficial level. I took a time out in my van to process my loneliness. My longing was making me sad. I began to feel very lonely. Looking out the back window, as I lay on my stomach, I could see two women at the campsite opposite. One was braiding the other's hair. I felt deep in my heart that I missed that closeness, that level of comfort and trust and safety, that softness and playfulness of touch. Beautiful, tender, thoughtless acts of sisterly love. I wished deep within my heart at that moment that I could have someone's hair to play with. That was a confronting wish. It confounded my sadness. It made me even more aware of what was not. I felt like retreating and remaining in my cave, my van, to fulfill my feeling as my experience. But I decided to venture out anyway. If I'm going to be alone, it would be better to be around others, having fun, right? I could absorb their joy by osmosis. And so I did. I dried my tears. I went outside. I bought some food and watched people dance, and it made me feel a lot better. I ordered a chai. The lady brewed a pot for 2 cups. The other cup was for a beautiful new friend. She called me by my name. She was at my tarot talk earlier in the day. She told me she enjoyed it. We sat down together to drink. We talked. It was interesting. When she first engaged me, I assumed it was fleeting and began to wander off on my own, but she followed me and I felt her presence. So we sat down and we talked about her festival stall and her touring life, her partner, the baby in her womb. We talked about her love of snow. We talked about avoiding showering for no good reason. She tells me how she makes her own shampoo after I mention how much I hate washing my hair. It's made of flaxseed, she said. It's a gel. It feels really good to use and it makes my hair nice. I compliment her lovely hair and I ask, can I touch your hair? She says yes, and I feel her hair gently in my fingers. It was just a moment, but in that moment I got to play with another sister's hair. My heart's wish was granted. And in that moment I received a miracle. Life is magical. When I wrote that in my journal, when I returned to my van for the night after I showered and was alone again, ready for bed, ready to go to sleep, I cried a lot because my wish was granted again. When in that moment when I was looking out the window and I was like confronted with what I didn't have, and I was surrounded all weekend. I know there were many sisters there who went by themselves, and a lot of women love doing that. I love doing that too. I'm pretty okay in my own company, but I do get reminded sometimes, like going to a festival and seeing so many groups of like really true friends, women with deep, deep connections who are just so comfortable with one another that they are basically sisters. You know, I'll be confronted with like I said, what I don't have right now. And I was so sad in that moment and I wanted to avoid it, but like I'd normally go on my phone and there was no reception and there's hardly any battery left and it just wasn't available to me to distract myself. So I really had to feel it. And I just watched these women, like a woman braiding another woman's hair, feeling my sadness in my heart and like really acknowledging my deep wish to have that in my life again, to have that level of comfort and trust and safety with hopefully more, but even just one woman where I can play with her hair, you know, and it's just a natural, normal thing to do. And if you're a guy listening, I know I have men that listen to this podcast. This isn't to exclude you. I know it's been a lot about women and exclusive women's spaces, but I hope you get some insight into what sisterhood is and it feels like and how important it is to women, that it's not something to be threatened by, that it's something incredibly empowering and beautiful and important and necessary for women. And we're criticized a lot for defaulting to the more overly masculine traits of being human these days because the society kind of demands it from us, but then we're also criticized for it. And perhaps that's because we share these kinds of things with each other instead of with the men, because we don't trust the men will receive it in a way that we feel safe or loved or cared for or nurtured. And so if you're still listening to this and you're a guy, like, thank you, but also receive this with gentleness and love. And I hope it gives you a bit more insight and understanding of what it is, something as simple as playing with each other's hair. It doesn't strike me as something that many men would do, and maybe they would love to do it deep down as well, but it's something that women have done since they're girls, and it's something we can do in circle, and it's something so simple, but that image really struck me more than the women dancing and singing and holding hands. It was the playing with the hair that really opened my heart up to that wish. And yeah, to see it within literally an hour, to have someone approach me speaking my name as if we were already friends, and telling me how much they enjoyed what I put out in the world, and then just sharing so openly and honestly about themselves and their journey, and that they had a new little babe growing within them, and then just like how quickly also as sisters we can fall into that safety with one another, to be able to be vulnerable enough to like allow someone you just met to touch your hair. Like, that's the power of this beautiful connection. And it's the reason I wanted to share, because it's such a simple and silly example, but it is so meaningful. And it was an incredible miracle for me. And that's the other reason I'm sharing it. Miracles don't have to be like winning the lottery, or being cured of some like terminal illness. They're like the best miracles, of course, but these miracles are the ones that can happen any day of the week. If only we have this pure, heartfelt intention. That frequency of purity of the heart can call in what you desire and wish for so quickly, but we have to be open to feeling. If I had shut myself off from looking at that scene that was triggering me, I really don't like that word anymore, but that was provoking these feelings within me, if I distracted myself with my phone, I would not have received that miracle. It was only that I allowed myself to feel and really accept that I felt sad about it, that I felt I was missing something, and diving and like reaching within me to tease out that desire, what I actually desired to feel. Why was this upsetting to me? It was not because I'm lacking something. The world hasn't given it to me. It was because I missed that. I wanted that, I wanted that beautiful connection. And I hope I have a beautiful circle of women that I sit in soon and we all braid each other's hair. That would be amazing. But in that moment, that was enough, and it still is enough. It was a beautiful experience. So I hope that touched you as much as it touched me. So yeah, these spaces of sisterhood, of connection between women, are powerful portals. They are so important, not just to women, but to our whole culture and our whole society. As we've seen from the events of this week, storytelling is super important, and it's something that we need to create new and more spaces for doing through lots of different formats, through chanting, through singing, through poetry, through storytelling and recital, through art, through theatre. There's so many modalities, through dance. There was so much beautiful expression through dance all weekend, and just through sharing as well. This is something that I'm going to be working to cultivate and also be a part of. So I'm going to push myself to join these community events this year in my area. And, I am a little bit remote. I'm really lucky to be somewhere where there's lots of incredibly attuned women who are wonderful facilitators that I haven't really pushed myself to like interact with, but that's changing now, which is great. I feel ready and open and courageous enough to do that. But yeah, also allowing and not shutting down these times and spaces where women wish to connect with women. I think it's super important and something that is going to become, it's needed so much right now, but it's just going to become more common and accessible. And that's what's great about the awakening wave, the waves of awakening that are happening and have been happening in recent times, that more women are stepping into the role of space holder, facilitator. More women are being trained in modalities to share with others. More women are developing their own unique modalities as well. And this is where things get really interesting, because sometimes we feel like there's already enough of the people doing cacao ceremonies or moon ceremonies or sharing circles. And that might be the case when they all have the same format, doing the same things, speaking the same words. But when we start actually intuitively developing our own formats, our own journeys, our own modalities, that's when things get really interesting and the creativity gets sparked and inspiration occurs. And instead of recycled, repetitious programming happens, it's actually spontaneous, inspired, channeled. It's unique frequencies being projected out into the world, weaving this beautiful blanket of frequency. So I might leave it there. I thank you all so much for sticking with me with this episode as I told some of my own stories. I would love to hear what you guys think of this journey of sisterhood. Feel free to share your reflections with me via messaging on Instagram at The Initiates Podcast. You can send me an email. Just visit my website, theinitiates.com, and you'll find contact details there. Or best of all, you can join the Telegram group and we can chat together as a community there. You can find the Telegram link in the show notes. I have some offerings for you guys. I am really happy and excited to be providing flower therapy. I've been working with some beautiful women this year doing flower therapy with custom flower remedy blends, working through energetic multidimensional healing. So if this sounds interesting to you, follow the link in the show notes to flowerguide.com.au or visit the website and you can book in with me. Sessions are online. They go for about 45 minutes, and included in the price is a flower remedy. If you're in Australia, that will be shipped to you for free. If you're overseas, you'll just need to pay for shipping, but the actual remedy itself is a custom blend and that will be included in the price for you. So this is currently $99. So if you would like to book in, follow the link in the show notes. I am also offering year ahead readings. It's not too late to get one. They'll always be 12 months ahead of us. So if you would like to work with me and the symbols of the tarot to receive some high guidance from your spirit team, your higher self, your future self and past self perhaps, check the link in the show notes to book in a reading with me. And I'll talk more about this on the next episode, but I am super excited to launch my very first online tarot training program. It's called Tarot Foundations, and it is an 8-week journey through the core foundational systems of tarot. And the way that I teach is very deeply rooted in symbol and decoding the symbolic meaning of the cards through the visual symbols. And basically the goal with my training, whether you're doing it one-on-one with me or in this group setting, is to get you to a point where you're confident and reading with such clarity that and intuition that you no longer have any kind of dependency on books or websites. You can read without them. It's all about empowerment, connecting in with your intuition, and unlocking the hidden language of symbol it's our universal language as humans. We have used symbol to communicate and share stories and meaning for forever. So this is something that I believe, this understanding of this universal language is encoded within us, in our genetics, in our ancestral lineage, in the matrix of our being. So it's my mission to help you remember to unlock that hidden memory, that repressed memory of this language of symbol. And you'll know that's happening for you when you no longer depend on books or websites to decode the messages in the cards. So if this sounds exciting to you, like I said, it's an 8-week journey. There'll be weekly online lessons in addition to some extra video lessons and lesson notes, written resources, cheat sheets. There's lots of good stuff in there. We'll be starting on the 26th of March. And if you would like to join us, head over to the link in the show notes or go to my website, crystalauratarot.com/tarot-foundations. Thank you again for joining me. It's been an honor and pleasure to hold and share this space with you. And I wish you love and peace and joy as you head into this next week. Blessings, my friends.